This news will not go away, my friends, not one bit, because Papa Stroll is absolutely gagging for an Leclerc. Hey, if they can't lure Max Verstappen yet, go for the next best thing. Honestly, this move feels more likely right now than Max leaving Red Bull. After Brazil, Verstappen's calm, "at least we tried" rhetoric to GP said it all. He seemed loyal, anchored, even almost sympathetic. But reports from Leclerc's camp suggest that his manager Nicholas Todt has been in talks with Aston Martin. And this isn't Nicholas contacting Aston Martin, it's Aston Martin effectively banging the door down saying, "Hey, we want to talk to your boy! Get Charlie boy on the phone right now!" said Papa Stroll. Possibly, maybe, in my head. I've actually mooted that idea about maybe him going as early as November 2023. And now, journalist Leo Torini, often connected with Ferrari leaks and rumours, has made the claim which corresponds with the Monegasque manager from a while back, that next year's driver market, it's going to be a doozy. So anyway, here's what Mr. Torini said for your consideration. Ahem. It comes as no surprise that Nicholas Todt, that's Charles' manager, has been repeatedly contacted by Aston Martin executives in recent times, and a good agent has a duty, not just a right, to evaluate every option in the interests of his client. After all, Aston Martin will have Newey's car and Honda's engine from 2026. Fernando will be closer to 50 than 40. All this to say that we need to carefully observe the movements behind the scenes of those who represent the top drivers. At present, we are in the phase that was once called surplace in track cycling. Everyone is standing still on their pedals, but in reality, they are ready to sprint. I have just written about Leclerc and the appetites he arouses. If the Rosso doesn't work out in 2026, who would bet on Charles staying at Maranello? Do you want to know the biggest surprise in all of this, in my opinion? Lance Stroll wasn't mentioned in that one single bit. We've just come on, a Leclerc-Alonso partnership, that would be wild. But remember, as Fernando himself has hinted before, if the car turns out to be good, much faster than before, amazing, then he will obviously call time on his career, and he'll become an elder statesman of the paddock, a Niki Lauda figure, as in, he'll be walking up and down, spouting off his opinions wearing an Aston Martin cap on his forehead. I am looking forward to that, though, when the day comes he actually retires from racing, much like how Jenson Button has recently retired from racing, and now he can more freely say what he wants. Remember that one-liner quip about John Elkann about the whole talk less thing? And he says, "Yeah, mate, maybe you should take a look in the mirror." I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but still, that was so cool to see what Jenson can now be, and we're thinking, please, Jenson, more. It also wasn't wrong. But what would make a Fernando-Charles dynamic electric is how eerily similar their mentalities are. Both are hyper-analytical, sometimes volatile, and feed off of underdog energy. And yet, they do not do so blindly. They can still call out their team despite being loyal. I mean, just look at what we saw with Alonso at McLaren with the second go-around with them. He remained loyal to that team for 4 years, and that was the heyday of all of the radio quips that we got from the Spaniard. He was more loyal to McLaren the second time around than he was with Renault, the team which actually helped him to win his 2 titles. But yeah, those two together, that would be the boom for Papa Stroll. If they can't get Max, Fernando and Charles, not too shabby. We'll get onto the whole Lance-Charles thing in a moment, but the real question is this. Why Aston Martin? Why? Why would Leclerc's camp even consider that kind of move? Well, I mean, the answer is quite easy. Ferrari's loyalty can turn to frustration really quickly. And if the Scuderia fails him yet again, a project built under Newey, Honda, and a fresh start could really feel like some kind of a sanctuary. Not so much a betrayal as it might have done had Charles defected from Ferrari a couple of years ago. But back to the quote itself. Torini's wording is worth taking seriously here. When someone as plugged into Ferrari as he is writes about Charles' manager being repeatedly contacted by Aston Martin, that's a definite sign that Papa Stroll's squad has been shopping around for elite drivers recently, not just Max Verstappen. Because every single elite, if there is a manager who is actually listening to all the whispers, Papa Stroll's posse would certainly be right up there, what with all of their swanky new facilities and their brand new wind tunnel, and not to mention their talented troupe of engineers. And we all suspected George Russell to be right up there too, but upon further reflection, the odds of George Russell ending up at that team if Papa Stroll is in charge are really, really low. The beef between the Strolls and the Russells go way, way back. There is a Canadian billionaire-shaped brick wall in front of the King's Lynn man. And also based on these rumours, they're not asking Leclerc to jump over when the team is only half-baked. Only when they've actually come out of the oven on the other side, with Newey having established himself with cars actually on the track, and brand new wind tunnel facilities that have been properly calibrated with updated simulation tools, which is another weakness that Newey has pointed out regarding the current Aston Martin, this seems to make a little bit more sense instead of some sort of spontaneous maneuver after this year. Because as Charles' manager said, everyone's just waiting for something to happen next year. That and Fernando's future depending on the car, and Stroll being a perpetual question mark. So what Torini is saying right here matches what Nicholas Todt himself said. And again, considering that Newey himself said that Max is off limits for at least the next couple of years, Leclerc's status as a man who should be world champion by now but isn't, makes him the favourite top-tier driver to jump ship instead, or at least before Verstappen. The reason he's probably not done so already is down to personal loyalty to the prancing horse, and the idea of winning with such a prestigious mark, yeah, it's still pretty illustrious, but still. His future, amongst the top-tier drivers, it's a lot cloudier. I mean, with Norris and Piastri, they are very much locked in. I do imagine Zach Brown's contracts are really, really tight. And they've just won a Constructors' Championship together again. Max and Red Bull, right now, that seems pretty tight as well. So Leclerc's status with Ferrari, it's certainly a lot more, undecided at the moment. Even though Leclerc is putting on a brave face, and he is being the bigger man. After all the criticism and confusion and speculation, many spanners hurled in his direction, he's managed to deflect every single one of them. At least in public. But make no mistake, Leclerc is very much in a pressure cooker environment, whilst everyone else actually has some sort of clarity. And Hamilton, he's right there, brothers in arms almost. Because Ferrari have underdelivered badly this year, with Torini openly framing the team as in crisis in other publications, and with Ralf Schumacher now publicly saying he should make sure, Leclerc, that he has a plan B. And should plan B be realised, there is a growing chance of that scenario forming where the Scuderia has an all-new lineup going into 2027. My personal pick, if I had to pick one, I think it would be Oliver Behrman partnered up with Rafael Camara. Maybe Ferrari takes a punt on the Ferrari Academy driver who absolutely dominated Formula 3. Although at the same time, I think Ferrari would rather him do at least a year or two over at Haas, their customer driver. But I'm really not sure what's going on over at Haas at the moment with their partnership with Toyota. How quickly could that grow? Because you've got Kale Rovanperä from WRC, a Toyota-backed guy. Him dabbling in Formula 2 and Super Formula. Who knows if he joins Formula 1 eventually. And then maybe Tomo Miyata and other Toyota-backed single-seater drivers. They could be partnering Ocon in a couple of years, and Ferrari might not have a leg to stand on. They could even lose a customer, and then by the end of the decade, we might have no Ferrari customer teams. But anyway, on the Aston side of things, the logic is brutally simple. Next year, they become a works team with Adrian Newey, the legendary engineer, leading the concept. And team boss Andy Cowell has admitted himself that they sacrificed this year, really, to focus on next year. Rough, yeah, but it's ideal for a reset, as James Vowles and Williams have proven. Yeah, finishing possibly as low as 9th place in the Constructors, like Williams last year, will very much sting their bottom line in terms of a lack of prize money, but the engineering and aerodynamicist pods will be very, very grateful for the extra wind tunnel time. It could produce a slightly better car. But yeah, if you're building a project that wants to be winning Constructors titles immediately, that is one of Honda's main goals. They are not beating about the bush. Honda wants to be winning championships in 2026 ideally. And you look to your medium-term lineup, you have got a legend amongst your ranks, but he could retire at any time. He could maybe choose not to retire. His future is very much dependent on the car. It's not quite as firm as it was a couple of years ago. And then you've got the other seat, which is mainly pinned down to the fact that it's owned by the boss's son, and a guy who's truly yet to make an impact in Formula 1, as we're closely approaching the realization that he has been in Formula 1 for nearly a decade. 2017 will mark his 10-year anniversary in Formula 1, and what has he really achieved in that time? And whether or not Leclerc would replace either Alonso or Stroll, at this point I really do not know. The shape of the board will tell you what the likely moves will be. Alonso is an old man and has said that walking away would be easier if he had a good car to finish off with, whereas Stroll is protected but not as invincible as he was a couple of years ago. Now Aston Martin has many fingers within their pie. The same Torini piece actually repeats paddock talk that Papa Stroll is looking to try and sell the road car business because it's not looking good over there, but yet he wants to hold on to the Aston Martin team. Seriously, I really stress you to look at what's happening with Aston Martin Lagonda at the moment. It's very much different entity to the Formula 1 team. And yeah, their financials are terrible. There is a reason why Aston Martin Lagonda sold their stake in the Formula One team to help shore up its debts. And it means that the prestige that Aston Martin wanted to have in being like Ferrari, well, they're not like Ferrari anymore. The car company now has only some kind of naming rights attitude toward the team. So there is a theory, perhaps, that maybe, and I'll get the spanner of speculation out again for this one, that Papa Stroll could easily change the name of the team if it's in the team's best interest. If Aston Martin doesn't serve it, then maybe another name will. Maybe they might just change to Aramco Formula One team. Who knows? And if that does happen, there is less of a brand marketing argument for Lance to be there and more pressure on results. So Aston, it sort of has many levers they can pull within this period. They could phase Alonso out too in an ambassadorial role and bring Leclerc in as the new leader alongside Lance, or they can do the truly ruthless thing and put Leclerc next to Alonso for a year, then maybe quietly move Lance into retirement. Maybe they'll conjure up a reason why Stroll can't race in F1 anymore. Maybe they'll just say that his injury has become far too unsustainable to manage in such an extreme sport as is Formula One. Maybe he'll try another discipline, maybe another sport entirely, or maybe just bow out gracefully and just count his many millions in solitude. Because yeah, if Papa Stroll does sell the road car company, the Formula One team will become his crown jewel once again before he bought the car company. And should that happen, Lance's status will definitely change. The shareholders will have more power. He will no longer be the protected son by default. He could easily become a brand liability. Because family sentiment may not mean as much as it used to when the team got bought by them in 2018. Ferrari politics obviously plays a part in all of this. We have to circle back to Elkan's infamous talk less jab after Brazil, turning a contract story into a trust issue. Publicly scolding Leclerc and Hamilton after a DNF? That's classic Ferrari scapegoating right there. But both drivers handled it with dignity though, especially Charles, who called for unity while clearly absorbing another punch from above. This is the kind of thing that Aston Martin would really be appealed by, that if there is a fire going on in main headquarters, Leclerc is not the kind of guy that, in front of a microphone, is going to be pouring more fuel onto the fire. He may more likely do so over the radio, but Aston Martin, they've got Fernando. They're very much experienced in temper tantrums in the cockpit. And sure, there are reported chunks of the Ferrari team who are getting sick and tired of Leclerc lambasting them over the radio, but at the same time, there is most likely a bigger contingent that absolutely adores the man. And the Tifosi? I mean, do I really need to even answer that? And even though there are many people suggesting that maybe Elkan's comments were more directed toward Lewis Hamilton than both he and Leclerc, Charles should really be questioning why he was being targeted after in Brazil. His exit from the race had nothing to do with poor performance or anything. He did nothing wrong. He was on course of maybe going for a podium. Maybe Elkan's starting to feel the pressure within Maranello since he's decided to get himself personally involved with the Formula One team, that his bet the farm moment on bringing in Lewis Hamilton has not paid off yet, and he's taking it out on everyone else. Because yeah, chairman and executives, they can do no wrong. And when you couple it with reports about many people within the Italian team really not liking the fact that Leclerc goes absolutely ham on the radio, you do feel like there is an element of a trust issue going on within that team, but Charles is really looking to just try and walk past it and just be the bigger man. And when you consider all of the rumblings regarding trust issues with the Piastri camp over at McLaren... Okay, no, never mind. But yeah, from the outside, this stuff at Ferrari looks exactly like the kind of public humiliation that makes a long-term signing quietly tell his manager to start looking at other options. But why would Leclerc pick Aston specifically? Well, leverage, that's why. Every other top team has some kind of political argument as to Leclerc not joining their ranks. Aston is the only project at the moment that seems to have everything ready to go almost, or will within a few months or so, that may give him unquestioned leadership credentials. Other teams may gladly have him, but they would be expecting him to play ball with the people they already have. And as my Gabby pointed out regarding the McLaren situation, the person that's been there longer is more likely to get many smiles aimed at them more likely than the other guy, the newer guy. And in terms of a project primed and ready to go, it looks a bit closer for realization than maybe Williams or Audi. They could easily turn the tides in a few years' time, but not right now. And whatever happens, I feel like Leclerc can easily take it. He can handle what's being hurled at him. Look at what he's had to deal with over at Ferrari. He's handled big-name drivers over there without the partnerships tearing themselves apart. Yeah, there have been flashpoints, of course. I mean, 2019 was full of them. But they managed to come out the other side, and the team had to rebound after 2020. They had to band together. They had no choice but to do so. That was an awful year for them. There have been controversies and radio spikes, yet there hasn't been an open civil war whilst Leclerc has been there. That may suggest that he is not the prima donna that maybe some people make him out to be. He may get mad and rant over the radio, absolutely, but many other drivers on the grid get mad over the radio. I mean, just look at Alonso. He is the absolute pinnacle of getting angry on the radio. He's turned that into an art form of the highest caliber entertainment. And it also suggests to me that maybe Aston are just parking the idea of bringing Max Verstappen amongst their ranks for the foreseeable future. And certainly, at least, until his contract ends with Red Bull. He might stick the course after all, that maybe they're all mucking in together, Ford and they're shacking up, and then maybe they might come up with something good. Certainly help that Ford is getting into world endurance. That's certainly a nice little carrot to have. And if they brought Leclerc in with Verstappen, it would threaten team harmony. By definition, you cannot have two absolute reference drivers without friction. Either you codify a de facto number one and insult the other, or you just let them fight and accept the consequences, that you could lose races and points. And I don't think Aston Martin would be beneath that, because Papa Stroll has shown that any publicity is good publicity. The only bad publicity is no publicity. And also, you're going into a brand new regulation cycle where you need as much high caliber feedback as possible. And if you did eventually have Verstappen and Leclerc, or even if you settled with Alonso and Leclerc, you would have some really nifty feedback with a legendary engineer taking down many notes. And with a brand new engine program, and a successor lined up instantaneously. So they might be able to stomach 1 or 2 years of some sort of fires every now and again, but they could end up with a clean handover. It's what McLaren is staking its reputation on, being able to have Oscar and Lando in the same team, them developing a car into a product that has managed to win back-to-back championships in the constructors' side. That is a very big reason why McLaren want to keep them both. Whether or not they do, it depends on their emotional capacity to remain impartial. It's not a technical thing, no. Having Leclerc and Stroll is therefore more awkward, but you can see why Aston might stomach it for 1 year. Stroll is solid on his day, but he doesn't look like the kind of driver who's going to be going toe-to-toe with the elite. Maybe if it rains. If you think you have a rocket ship and you don't have a pair with title caliber credentials, that is almost borderline negligence. Yeah, I can't imagine the idea of Newey looking to next year, his first car with Aston Martin, and sees one driver, that being potentially Alonso, chasing podiums, whereas Lance Stroll, he's kind of like 6th, 7th, 8th, maybe not even in Q3. So maybe if Alonso does bow out into retirement and then Stroll is partnered with Leclerc, maybe they're hoping, Papa Stroll especially, that the shock of having such a prime candidate next to him might G him up into maybe stepping up and seeing a side of Lance that we've never seen before. Because you do have to point out here, he may have been partnered up with world champions, but very much at the tail end of their careers. With Leclerc, no, very much in his prime. Or if they choose not to do that, they need to come up with an exit plan which looks really graceful. But okay, why is this talk of Charles leaving Ferrari more compelling than Max leaving Red Bull? Well, it's because we're bored of Max talk. We're now more interested in Charles talk. And it's not helped by the fact that everyone talking about, oh, Max has an exit clause. It's turned out to be a bit of a damp squib. It's turned out to be something that's not been as sexy as has been mooted by the press. Over in Ferrari, oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, it's very interesting right now because simply of all of the drama that Ferrari is procuring at the moment. Red Bull, there is no drama, which is good for them. Not so good for journalists trying to make a quick buck. Because whilst Red Bull has turned a corner and managed to get something out of the RB21, the SF25 is underperforming. The internal politics look worse and more respected voices around the paddock are flatly asking that Leclerc should maybe consider his options. On top of that, the Aston project is visibly gearing up, and you see that they want a driver upgrade. Everything about that picture lines up in the same time window. Red Bull, by comparison, look like they're in a very warm huddle trying to figure it out as a unit, looking tighter than ever. And I know, we all keep coming back to the romanticism of winning with Ferrari. It's a very powerful temptation. But right now, that romance is colliding with some very inconvenient truths. Because sure, you could argue that the first couple of years of being with Ferrari was very much a bedding-in period, with Leclerc just at the beginning of his career, yet to have reached his full potential. But 2022 was the year where you could think, yes, Charles is ready to go for a world title, and the car at that time looked ready to be going for said title. But then the team completely botched it, for one reason or another. Then they spent the next couple of years under Fred Vasseur bouncing around between Red Bull and McLaren. Where were they in the top 3? And then they wound up falling off this year with the chairman telling the drivers to basically shut up and drive the car. And yeah, I know that you'll be arguing that Toto told Lewis to shut up and drive the car, but it seemed a little bit more, Lewis, we know the car is bad, please drive it. I know this is bad, Lewis, just get on with it. Whereas John, no, it seemed a lot more aggressive. And if the car misses next year, and based on recent history, last 20 years and regulation changes, it's not looking that good, then the reason to stay with the team, it just collapses even more. Because regulation resets are when dynasties get built. Miss one, you can maybe excuse that as bad execution. If you miss 2 in a row, you start to suspect that maybe the architecture of the team is a little bit wrong. And when you actually look back to history, at one point, Ferrari got it wrong 3 times in a row. 2005, Ferrari missed. 2009, they missed again. 2014, another one, thank you. Yes, they managed to turn things around in 2017 and 2022. It started off quite well, but it didn't gain the serious momentum that could mean that the drivers of the day could actually mount a compelling World Championship bid. It just fell off. So yeah, Aston managing to secure Leclerc's services, it's not Verstappen, but it would still be a genuine coup. One of the best qualifiers of the sport. Someone who has lived inside Ferrari's pressure cooker and survived. Someone who's still in his prime, looking for maybe another team to pin his coat of arms to maybe redefine his identity as no longer il predestinato. You'd also get a brutal validation of your own project. A driver walking away from such a team as Ferrari to come to you? He's effectively saying, yeah, this is where I think I can win my first world championship. And for Honda, getting Charles Leclerc after having such success with Max Verstappen, oh, that would be absolute gold. They'd be going, ha! In your face, Toyota! We managed to work with Max and Charles! And for Ferrari, seriously, if they lost Leclerc after all this time, it would hurt them on so many levels. It would almost be like the writing of their obituary in the modern era. They would have to look to World Endurance for any crumbs of comfort. It could even be the undoing of John Elkann, even though the car company itself is still making money, unlike Aston Martin. To lose Leclerc potentially, and then send a living legend of the sport who dreamed of racing for Ferrari into a tailspin and maybe retirement, that is not good. And aside from that, you would have lost a homegrown star, your best benchmark, against Lewis or maybe a rising Oliver Bearman in the future. Your continuity thread through multiple regulation eras would be gone too, and a driver who knows every quirk of your team and culture, that would be gone too. That compatibility lost forever. You would also be sending a message, should Charles choose to leave the team, that Ferrari is no longer the place to be, that it's fundamentally toxic. No elite driver would actually pick up the phone anymore if a Ferrari seat was being offered to them, because they'd be thinking, do I really want to go there, considering who's leading the charge and, me just being part of another department instead of being part of a prestigious Formula One team outright? Because that's what it is right now. The Ferrari Formula One team is just another office department right next to World Endurance. One performs well, the other underperforms, so naturally, you're going to be punching down at the one that's not performing well, instead of it being a separate independent force like Enzo Ferrari himself wanted it to be. So it could mean that their options of picking drivers, they would have to pick from within for both seats. So the result of that being is that they might have to pull what McLaren did in 2023. They'd have to pick young, Oliver and Raphael, and just hopefully invest on them and then come back swinging once they reach their prime. The days of them being able to pick 2 elites like Lewis and Charles, oh, that'd be gone for several years. And the potential optics of the man Ferrari anointed as its future winning his first title in green instead, it would be the ultimate reversal of fate. The student of Maranello becoming the proof of its own failures. And the interesting part in all of this is that we've reached the point where Ferrari cannot convincingly dismiss the talk of Charles exiting his contract sooner than 2029. We already knew about the 2027 exit clause that was being mooted, but now we're getting rumblings about there being one for next year as well. That means the clock is ticking over at Ferrari. They really have to perform next year. Because, yeah, they might be able to excuse the idea of saying, oh, well, the Lewis project, it didn't really work out. Sorry, mate, but I guess we were just not meant to be. But if that ends up being the case of Charles as well, and they both go, Ferrari's value, all the way down. Again, the clock is ticking, and Ferrari seems to be lacking any direction, to try and turn off the alarm of said clock. Because right now, the situation at Ferrari is very alarming. But I have a direction for you. Over to this video right here, which I think you will very much like. I just need a glass of water though. I'll be right back. But yeah, go over there.